And I mentioned during the budget hearing, the good thing is we have a lot of college-age students who are now interested going to school because of free higher education. And we also saw this very encouraging phenomenon in which the 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 last decile, second to the last decile, and the third decile are growing, meaning the poorest of the poor are now the poorest of the poor are now enabled to go to college. They have the opportunity to get a college diploma, and that's a good phenomenon. On the downside is the carrying capacity, because a lot of students now are encouraged to go to school, to go to college. However, we all know that our SUCs are now facing severe deficiencies in terms of facilities, not only classrooms, but laboratories, even gymnasium, even access to teachers and professors. And that was also discussed during the budget hearing. May I ask the good sponsor, what are the SUCs doing in order to address the carrying capacity issue? Meron bang anong capital outlay sa SUCs? Do we have that? Ang insertion ba natin is for these two? 2 and 3?
No, sir, for next year lang. Ito
Sure.
lang, sir. Yung 3 billion.
Okay.
Sasagot. Mr. President, so the question is, how are the SUCs coping with this increased carrying capacity? So one of the main solution is conducting general classes online, which I hastily reminded the President that I am not a fan of. And I actually am going to make a statement and will also ask the President SUC President, to PASOK President to respond. When they are offering the courses online, is this made very clear to the parents that they are now receiving an education that is partly delivered online instead of face-to-face? Alam ba yan? Kasi Chairman Popo, you will recall a few years ago, this representation was very firm about, and the chair supported it, that there's nothing wrong with conducting classes online, but it must be made clear that this, if X amount of classes are conducted online, you have to make that statement very clear, because it is a great vehicle to obtaining a degree for those who cannot attend face-to-face. But if you can attend face-to-face, I feel it's a disservice to not be able to get that. So I just wanted to be clear if that is made very, if I want to be certain that that is clear to the parents and that they are following the guidelines of CHED on providing online. On that note, so you can give me a clear answer, because I don't want just a nod. I really want to hear, but what is the policy here? I want to share this information with our colleagues that for some, despite the demand, they did not increase their enrollment. So I actually have to say I'm proud of that, because we really need to be firm about maintaining the quality of education, the well-being also of the teachers, of the professors, na kayanan nilang turuan yung mga estudyante na. So I have here a list of the increase of enrollment per SUC. Some are as low as 1%, so negligible. Some are 3%, 12%, 7%, but there are some that are as high as, and I will ask them to answer us how they, because that is a question of His Honor. 52% increase in enrollment. And then meron din 44% increase. And the top notcher is, are you ready for this? 129% increase.
Wow.
So nagdoble. So,
Which
President
school is
Tirso,
that?
may,
Which
may, I,
sponsor?
may I would like to excuse President Tirso so he can consult with the three that I mentioned and ask how are they coping, because I think we should know.
I think on the good side, Madam Sponsor, it's good because students are interested in studying. But I joined the good sponsor in preserving and maintaining quality because we don't want just to promote diploma mills
Clean. Exactly.
in that regard, Mr. President. Well, Mr.
And
President.
just to add, CHED has a TWG also to study the carrying capacity. I'd also like to get more information that maybe we can just ask the chairman to submit to us. Because it'll be interesting to know, like, if you say, 10% increase is not a burden, then okay, then we can say that, okay, 10% increase is not. But 10% increase for the next 3 years straight is
Yes,
30 plus
right.
percent. So, parang kailangan clear talaga yung standards natin for that. President Tirso, I'll wait for that answer. Serious ako dyan. Thank you.
Well, Mr. President, system-wide, our average increase is about 8%, no, system-wide, but it's, of course, it varies from location to location. But typically, I'm sure the good sponsor knows this and will agree.
Pero ang hirap naman kasi sabihin nun na may 1% tapos may 126%. Ang hirap naman i-average nun, di ba?
Yeah, Mr. President. Well, Mr. President, going to the online, typically online, the way I understand it, you offer online to students who are currently employed or who cannot do full-time studies, Mr. President. It's a course designed for students who are working, Mr. President, but not the online should not be designed because we don't have classrooms, Mr. President. No? So it skews the objective, Mr. President.
And I hope all our SUCs are taking note of that, Chairman Popoy, na yun nga may purpose yun eh.
Yes,
Nagtatrabaho ka. I don't know if there's anything else. Or meron like I know there are incidents where a student is disabled, napakahirap naman mag full-time. Okay,
Correct, Mr.
maraming incidents na bagay naman yung online. Anyway, Chairman Popoy just gave me this, that CHED only allows 25% online per course per semester. So that means if you have 4 subjects. So my question is, and I'll just share it with the body, so isang tanong, isang sagot. Does that mean that one subject in a semester, if you have 4 subjects, one subject can be taught purely online, or does it mean per subject? Okay, per subject. So per subject, 25% can be online. In other words, if you had if it's a MWF class, like 3 units, so that's 12 sessions in a month, then 3 of those classes can be online. Personally, and I always have a disclaimer, I'm not the expert, but personally, as a previous student, as a mother of students, medyo okay naman sa akin yon. I think that's fair, no? Because then 75% of the class is with the face-to-face. Kasi during the pandemic, what bothered me was that there were some subjects, because of the teacher per se, totally online yung subject na yon. So sabi ko, ang hirap naman noon na, you get the face-to-face value for some, and then the others, 100 or 80% of that subject is online. So I'm glad that and we're strict about this. Okay.
Yeah. Mr. President, it's good that the Commission acknowledged the carrying capacity bottleneck that we are experiencing right now. And again, that's manifested through the TWG that they created. And we'll request from the Commission the results of that carrying capacity study. And moving forward, we saw in the budget that the Senate added 3 billion on top of the 9 billion capital outlay for the SUCs, Mr. President. And I thank the good sponsor for adding 3 billion. So what I'm driving at, Mr. President, is there is capital outlay of about 12 billion, but through that carrying capacity study, we might rationalize the capital outlay to areas or to SUCs that really need it the most. For example, if you are growing at 129%, obviously you need more school buildings, you need more gyms, you need more laboratories, as opposed to areas where it only has 1% growth. So that carrying capacity study is very important to rationalize also how we distribute capital outlay in order to address carrying capacity. And on top of that, Madam Sponsor, at the proper time, we will also submit our amendment to include in the budgets of the different SUCs in total about 3 billion pesos to address the deficiency, Mr. President. So we will recommend to the committee. We have a list of SUCs who are in need of additional income so they can accommodate the students going into their universities. And we'll submit to the committee that breakdown, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'll go to another topic, and this was also raised during the committee hearings, and I thank the good sponsor for, this is just to flag the committee, the good sponsor not to include the special provisions on SUC infrastructure project, Mr. President. In the 2024 GAA, there's a special provision there, and I'll read it. SUC infrastructure projects, the Department of Public Works and Highways shall implement the infrastructure projects of SUCs exceeding 5 million pesos, Mr. President. And I thank the good sponsor for not including that. But looking at history in 2024, in fact, the NEP did not contain that. The GAB did not contain that. The committee report did not contain that. But it magically appeared in the bicameral conference committee report, Mr. President. So I would like to just reiterate and flag the committee to, and all of us here in this hall to look out for that special provision because it created a lot of complications to the SUCs, Mr. President. Only 13 out of the 191 SUC infrastructure projects were subjected to this special provision, Mr. President. So in other words, a lot of delays were incurred in terms of building infrastructure projects at the SUC levels. And we're talking about carrying capacity, meaning we need to build in the SUCs. But with this special provision, we are actually slowing down or delaying the infrastructure buildup of SUCs, Mr. President. And of course, that will cause domino effect. For example, it affects the carrying capacity. It also affects spending and budget utilization, Mr. President. So just I'm just flagging the committee that this might reappear in the bicameral conference committee report, and we should all be alert regarding this special provision, Mr. President. So, Mr. President,
Before you move on to a topic, I'm just clarifying something.
amount to 20,000 will just cover the tuition fee. At least half of that will cover the tuition fee. Paano pa yung pang-project, yung pang-extra expenses? And I know Her Honor is very passionate about dormitories, which is a very practical approach to students living in far-flung areas. Paying for 10,000 pesos for dormitory will not be enough, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, I would like to get the reason why the commission reduced the amount of TES subsidy, and what is their logic and what is their computation in reducing the amounts for this subsidy, Mr. President?
Will it cover immediately?
So actually, Mr. President, the slots that they have every year is 200,000. The applicants they've had in 2021 and 2023 is at 1.6 million. So that is why the board decided to slash the amount to accommodate more. And so how many do you accommodate now? So as it is, at the reduced amount, they're only able to accommodate 250,000, nothing close
To
to
the
this
1.6.
1.6 applicants. But a further update is, Mr. President, in their latest board meeting, they increased the tests for the private schools to 27,000. So as I said, it was at 20, it's now at 27, but previously, in fact, this year, for 2024, it is still at 60,000. So it is still reduced to, it's still less than half the amount. It's 27,000 compared to 60,000.
Yes. Well, Mr. President, let's do a test case on the private schools. What is the breakdown for that 60,000? I am sure they studied this and felt that the 60,000 might be more than enough, Mr. President. So what is the logic in reducing it to 27,000?
Needs.
Kaya sa probably 40,000. Kasi di ba?
Okay. Okay. When you say educational needs, that's everything from transport, food, books, and equipment. Okay.
Mix kasi yun sa
Okay.
region. So di ba may 14 billion sa government?
So, the original computation for the use of the 60,000 was as follows. 20,000 would be for tuition, and then the remaining 40,000 would be for all the educational needs from transportation, food, lodging, equipment in school, and so on and so forth. So that's 60,000. And that's why for the public school, it's 40,000 because the 20,000 is already covered. So now, with only little over 20, then you assume that all of this transportation, food, books, other materials for projects, and if maybe the first year they buy a laptop, that's now 7,000 only.
That's correct, Mr. President. Well, Mr. President, I share the sentiment of the good sponsor. I know that she's very passionate in making sure that the students finish from day one all the way to the fourth year, Mr. President. And we don't want a scenario wherein we give the subsidy, but they will not finish. No? It's either they will drop out in the middle of the academic year, or they will not pursue studying anymore, Mr. President, because as you go to the higher levels, it becomes very costly, Mr. President. So my sentiment towards that, Mr. President, is the amounts should be enough in order for the students to graduate up to fourth year, up to the end of the course, Mr. President. I feel that the 60,000 and 40,000 are the amounts that will incentivize and as well as cover the expenses for the student in order for his or her to finish the school year, Mr. President. So my take on that is the amounts are designed, the original amounts are designed for the students not to drop out and finish and graduate, because that's what we want, Mr. President, for them to graduate rather than giving them subsidies and halfway they will just drop out, Mr. President. So I will just request from the Commission, Mr. President, a study on the amounts that the reduced amounts, Mr. President. What is the science and also the rationale on reducing those amounts? And I'll just request the Commission for that study, Mr. President, because marami nga tayong napapag-aral, di naman nila natatapos, Mr. President. As opposed to konti lang, pero tapos naman lahat, Mr. President. So that is the logic that I'm thinking, Mr. President.
What I'd like to share to His Honor's observations and statements is that with that now no longer in effect rates, the 60 and the 40,000, the completion rate is 79.2, so almost 80%, so not too bad. And now that you reduced it, bababa ito. So I guess
there's a threat that it will go down, Mr. President.
I honestly feel it's a huge threat because, like I said, the findings of EDCOM is that financial
Yes, Mr.
challenges are the biggest deterrent to finishing. So is that a policy that you can still review? Because when you accept this additional 50,000 students, next year, we will now have to subsidize 100,000 kasi 50 plus another 50 sophomores na sila. The following year, it's going to be 150, it's going to be 200. So when you look at me like that, who's going to produce that money?
Well, Mr. President, I'd like to urge the commission to restudy the amounts
Yeah.
and also to rethink the amounts. And the threat there is bababa yung ating graduation rates.
Yun na nga eh. And I wish, and this is another lengthy discussion ongoing, is that do we even have, in other countries or even in the Philippines before, you have an associate degree, di ba? Maraming ganon. So you can actually you can opt out after the second year work and go back. There's also the ladderized education law that I sponsored. Pero it's not even available. It's not widely available in many SOOCs. So paano? Ano yung opt-out nila? I think you should only, this is my humble opinion, you should only change that number if you have a opt-out associate's degree or something for 2 years. Because
Yeah.
I don't want this 79.2% to go down lower. And it's already at 79. And wala pa dito yung inflationary cost.
Correct, Mr. President.
Technically, baka every 3 to 5 years, nag-i-increase din yan. So, yeah, so that's really a problem we have.
But Mr. President, the reduction might be well-meaning, meaning they want to increase more grantees, but it might create unintended consequences in terms of reduction in graduation rates, Mr. President. So I'd like to urge the Commission to rethink and reevaluate that policy because instead of having more graduates, we might have lesser graduates, but we're giving subsidies from day one. No? So matatapon lang yung subsidies na because on day one we give it to them, but they will not finish the course. No? So as opposed to giving it on day one and finishing the course, Mr. President. So I would like to, again, restate my sentiment that the Commission should rethink this policy and just submit to the committee the study on how they came up with the 27,000, Mr. President.
May sagot na sila dun eh. It's by the sheer, they just adjusted it, di ba? That's what you said. They just adjusted it because of the sheer number of.
Yes, Mr. President.
So that's a problem because there are consequences that you did not factor in.
Yeah.
And there are nodding yes.
But Mr. President, sana naman mayroong deeper analysis on correlating it to dropout rates, correlating it to graduation rates, because we saw that in the TESDA budget, Mr. President, that when we're giving a lot of scholarship for short-term courses, but we also see a lot of dropouts, no? High attrition rates, Mr. President. So that might become the phenomenon with this lower down subsidy rates, Mr. President. So may unintended
And I'll add to
consequence
that,
talaga.
Mr. President, PIDS already said that 40% of our graduates are overqualified. So actually, I'm posting this question to the own agencies that I'm defending. What was the logic? Overqualified na nga ang 40%, dadagdagan pa natin. Ba't hindi lang tayo mag-improve with 10 billion pesos, 20 billion, mag-improve na lang tayo ng quality of education? Or market a few shorter courses that are really in need and high-paying. Marami
Correct,
naman.
Mr. President.
Oh, pwede ba natin baguhin yan in time for the final committee, the final report? Seriously, we're creating a new problem. Please, thank you.
I think this should be a
They'll do
deeper
the math
study,
now.
Mr. President. Not only the math, but also the effect. I can see unintended consequences here, Mr. President. So we should study this very carefully, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, that's it for this representation. I've already exhausted all of my questions, and I thank the good sponsor for graciously clarifying and answering this representation's questions. Maraming salamat po. Again, greetings to the Commission and also to the members of the SUCs who are here with us. Gandang hapon po. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Gatchalian. Likewise, the Commission and likewise the SUC family are in good hands. We have so many advocates here like Senator Gatchalian, the sponsor, Senator Pia Cayetano, even the minority leader, the deputy minority leader are very supportive of the state universities and college. Even this representation, I remember, before I recognized Senator Ontiveros for interpellation, that in my one and only term in the House of Representatives, that I spearheaded the increase in the budget of the SUCs at that time, because of the influx, especially of the students right now, because of the free tertiary education, they would really need that support to accommodate everyone. Likewise, the minority leader, ito his intervention, Senator Gok Mintel, yun po sa PUP, which is very deserving as well. Through his intervention, meron tayong building to address the overpopulation. Kaya lang, first phase pa lang. So I will also make the proper amendment so that it can be completed. Sabi nga ba, just like all the other state universities and colleges, UP, PUP, ito yung mga scholar ng bayan, poor but deserving students, they really deserve to be supported. So with that, I will make the proper amendment to complete what the minority leader has started in PUP. So the chair would like to recognize as the deputy minority leader, Senator Risa Ontiveros, for interpellation.
Salamat, Mr. President, at magandang hapon po, magandang gabi na pala, good sponsor. At sa Commissioner ng CHED at lahat po ng mga opisyal ng ating mga state colleges and universities. So, Mr. President, good sponsor, una po tungkol sa safe spaces. As a principal author of the Safe Spaces Act, I'd like to get updates from the Commission on Higher Education about its compliance with the obligations stipulated in the law. Pwede po bang i-inform ng good sponsor itong representasyon sa bilang ng mga higher education institutions na in-inspect ng Commission? Ano po yung percentage ng mga institusyong ito na nag-comply sa kanilang mga obligasyon sa ilalim ng Safe Spaces Act, good sponsor?
Would Her Honor prefer that I suspend for a minute, or would she like to ask a question while they are putting together their response?
Sure, I can go on to my second question, good sponsor. Salamat. So, my next question, couple of questions, is on CHED's regulatory power vis-a-vis tuition fee increases. Pursuant to RA 6278, 70% of the tuition fee increases is supposed to go towards increases in salaries, wages, allowances, and other benefits for teaching and non-teaching personnel. I understand that the Commission has issued 2 memoranda orders on this, specifically CMO number 3 and number 8, series of 2012. In effect pa po ba ang mga CMOs na ito, good sponsor?
Yes, Mr. President.
Alright, salamat, good sponsor. Kung ganon, based on CMO number 3, CHED regional offices have the responsibility to monitor the implementation of the allocation of incremental proceeds. We have received complaints from the Council of Teachers and Staff of colleges and universities that their members have not been receiving the 70% share of tuition fee increases in their universities. Pwede po bang linawin ng good sponsor bakit hindi nakayanan ng CHED i-enforce ang CMO nila? At pwede po bang magbigay ang good sponsor ng mga datos sa ilang mga universidad ang na-monitor at nag-comply sa CMO, good sponsor?
Yeah. So, Mr. President, Chairman De Vera says that they act immediately on the complaints that they receive. If Her Honor would like to forward those complaints, they will immediately act on it because at this very moment, he's not aware that there have been any that have been brought to their attention.
All right, salamat. We'll do, good sponsor.
And the
At,
SOP, by
salamat
the
sa
way, also
chair.
is that when they receive a request for a increase, they also need to hear from the association or union of, and also both the employees to find out if they are compliant with this requirement that Her Honor mentioned.
Salamat, good sponsor. That's good to hear. And I actually have a question a little later, kaugnay din po dyan sa request for increases. Pero so, and I will furnish the chair and the commission the details about these particular complaints through the good sponsor. Sa kabila nun, can the good sponsor provide data on how many universities have been monitored and have complied with the CMO, good sponsor?
We will submit, Mr. President, no, because like I said, at the moment, the chairman is not aware that there's any complaints, or if there's no complaints, then the assumption they're compliant. But because it's the regional offices that handle it, so it is possible na meron, pero what he's saying to me is that they will have to go back to the regional offices and check with each one who has, to find out if they have received any complaints and to find out who is compliant.
Okay. Salamat, good sponsor. So, na-anticipate nyo yung follow-up question ko na, in fact, this second question about this topic was not anymore about those who have not complied, pero kung ilan ang nagko-comply, na-monitor at na-monitor na nagko-comply. So, kahit yung datang iyon, wala po ang commission sa ngayon, ipadadala pa
Wala po. They will have to get it from the regional offices.
from the regional offices. All right. Salamat, good sponsor. I would have wished dala na po nila sa ngayon, but then if they don't have it right now, iintayin ko na lamang po. But further to the complaints that we have received at ifo-forward ko po sa commission sa pamamagitan ng good sponsor, the complainants highlighted their great difficulties in accessing the latest audited financial statements of their respective HEIs. They claim that the reporting requirements, such as the Certificate of Intended Compliance and Certificate of Compliance required by CMO number 3, are insufficient to verify that proceeds are allocated to personnel salaries. Nakikiisa ba yung commission sa paniniwala na ang mga reforma sa RA 6278 o kahit sa mga existing memoranda orders ay kailangan para siguruhin yung compliance sa mga universidad? Good sponsor.
So, Mr. President, what they have are the prerequisites for the application. They do not have the post financial statements after. So, but I've already asked them. I think it should be included so that they can automatically see the compliance with the regulations. And they said they will do that, Mr. President.
Salamat, good sponsor, pati sa pakikiisa ng good sponsor dun sa concern ng representasyong ito. And does the Commission also share the belief that the good sponsor shares? At will this possibly lead to reforms to the law itself and also reforms to existing memoranda orders, good sponsor?
Yes, but basically that's what they already confirmed with me when I explained it to Her Honor a minute ago. So we have their assurance.
All right, salamat, good sponsor. So ngayon, tanong dun sa isang napag-usapan natin ng good sponsor just a few minutes ago tungkol sa requests for tuition fee increases. part of the Commission's UACTE budget is to cover free higher education for local universities and colleges. Obligado po ba yung Commission na pondohan yung full costs ng free higher education for LUCs? At kung ang isang LUC itataas yung tuition fees nila, kailangan ba ng approval ng CHED o obligado ba ang CHED na bayaran yung tuition fee increase, good sponsor?
So, CHED does give, CHED ba or Unifast? Unifast does give the full tuition for the looks, but by law, they cannot increase for 5 years. So wala namang idadagdag kasi they are prohibited from increasing.
Okay. Pero kung yung isang LUC na participant na sa Unifast, sinusuportahan na ng Unifast, kung lumipas ng 5 taon, magtataas sila ng tuition fee, kailangan ba aprubahan muna ng CHED or ng Unifast for that matter? At obligado ba siya bayaran yung tuition fee increase, good sponsor?
Yes, they have to get they have to submit and they have to submit the request also, Mr. President, similar to what the SUCs do.
Okay. So they have to submit, ibig sabihin kailangan aprubahan muna ng Unifast at pagkatapos nun,
Yes.
saka obligado ang pagbayad sa increase. All right. Salamat, good sponsor. Dako naman po ako, Mr. President, sa task force report. My office, in collaboration with others, worked with the Commission on Higher Education on the task force report to address issues related to higher education subsidies. The recommendations were designed to tackle challenges the Commission faces to ensure eligible students receive their complete grants in a timely manner. Despite my numerous requests for updates from the Commission about the task force report, my office received updates from the Commission only last night. Nevertheless, I am pleased that the Commission has agreed to implement most of the task force recommendations. Aling pong mga rekomendasyon ay nasa proseso pa na i-fully implement ng Commission, good sponsor? At ano yung kanilang expected timeline?
So, like the automatic fund release mechanism and policy implementation by Unifast, the Unifast is in the process of finalizing a new MOA with the Land Bank of the Philippines so that Land Bank Visa debit cards may be used in disbursing funds directly to the students. And then on the enhanced automation of the Unifast system, the Unifast Secretariat has developed a system to enhance the process in FHE billing. The system automates the computation of fees based on the certified TOSF from the HEIs. This will ensure the accuracy and timeliness of the submission of billing documents. The system underwent alpha and beta testing in 2023 and is now being used for the school year, academic year 2024 and 2025, billing by 5 selected LUCs with a uniform TOSF structure. There's a report on all this. It's quite lengthy, so we can just furnish Her Honor with a copy.
Thank you so much, good sponsor. And so these are at least 2 of the recommendations that are in the process of being fully implemented. For these 2, or on average for all the recommendations na nasa proseso ngang ito, ano yung expected timeline ng Commission for full implementation? Like, kailan po ma-finalize yung MOA at magsisimula na po yung automatic fund release sa tulong ng Land Bank? Kailan po fully implemented yung enhanced automation? Or fully implemented na po ba yun?
For full automation, that will take about 1 year, Mr. President.
Alright. And yung automatic fund release, 1 year din po ba, good sponsor?
That one is just 6 months.
6 months. So is it possible, good sponsor, na lahat ng mga rekomendasyon na are in the process of being fully implemented, ang timeline para doon ay from 6 months to 1 year on average? Or meron po bang ilan na tatagal pa ng kaunti?
No, it won't go beyond 1 year, Mr. President.
Salamat. That's good to know po. So more or less 1 school year din para sa mga estudyante. Salamat, good sponsor. Now, over the years, hundreds of students have reached out to my office expressing their uncertainties about when their much-needed scholarship funds would arrive. Students who want to voice their grievances are held back by fear of suffering repercussions, to which the UNIFAS Secretariat mentioned that they have grievance mechanisms in place. Pwede po bang magbigay linaw ang good sponsor sa ano ang mga grievance mechanisms in place para sa estudyante? Paano sinisiguro ng komisyon na mga estudyante ay mabibigyan ng isang safe environment para isaboses yung mga concerns nila nang walang takot ng repercussion mula man sa respective CHEDRO nila o higher education institution, good sponsor?
So, Mr. President, as soon as they receive a complaint, they will send a show cause order. I was just shown a copy of a complaint that came from Her Honor's office, and they issued a show cause order. But I also asked that specifically if it's just a student without the need of a senator to endorse the complaint, ganun
Opo.
din ba? And we are assured that the process is the same.
I see. So makatanggap lang ang commission ng reklamo diretso mula sa estudyante, padadala nila ng show cause order, either yung CHEDRO or yung HEI concerned. Are there any other ways in which the commission
Ang sama
ensures
naman
a
ng
safe
English ng sagot
environment
ng
for
school
this?
na to.
Ano po yun, good sponsor?
Ang sama ng English nung sagot ng school. Ano ba to? He was having a misleading information.
At least wala pang estudyanteng nagreklamo ng ganon sa opisina ko, good sponsor.
Ongoing yung kanyang... Ano yun? Ano ba yun?
Mas grabe yung mga reklamo nila.
Grabe yung reklamo ko dun sa English nila.
Opo, good sponsor. Are there any other ways in English or whatever other language that the Commission provides a safe environment for students to bring their concerns or complaints forward?
May hotline din sila, but I will ask a follow-up question for Her Honor's better for Her Honor and my better understanding. Katulad niyan, yung sulat na pinakita niyo sa akin, may name ng student. Pag nagsabi yung student na itago yung pangalan niya, kung hindi naman specific, tinatago niyo naman. O yun naman, tinatago naman nila yung
Parang tayo
pangalan.
dito sa Senado, good sponsor, nire-redact. Opo. So, any other ways that a safe environment is generated for the student without fear of repercussions? Good sponsor.
They also called the president of the SUC directly. Having a misleading...
Salamat, good sponsor. I hope these and any other ways ay nako-communicate po sa mga estudyante just to empower them to take proactive action and within the system provided by CHED and the UNIFAS Secretariat to get resolution to these situations. So dako naman po ako sa additional 30.1 billion pesos good sponsor na tinalakay din ni Senator Sherwin kanina. I too have no doubt that the education sector and our young people need this funding support. But I am worried that CHED's track record and low absorptive capacity could result in a wastage of these important funds. The House added an additional 30.1 billion pesos to CHED's new general appropriations, allocating 14.8 billion pesos to the UACTES Tertiary Education Subsidy Fund and 15.3 billion pesos to the Tulong Dunong program. Pwede po bang mag-provide ang good sponsor ng datos o kahit projections para suportahan yung additional na 30.1 billion pesos? Ilang mga benepisyaryo, pareho sa current at saka sa new grantees, ang magbebenepisyo dito, good sponsor?
Your Honor, this representation has no way of giving Her Honor information on how the tulong dunong of 15 billion will be implemented. None. So, as I've said in the earlier, it's a
I shouldn't expect you to be a mind reader, good sponsor.
Yes, yes.
Okay po.
I can try. I have an imaginative mind. But no, we do not know. Now, as for, but I just want to point out that there is a 14.7, so almost 15 billion budget for tests.
Yes.
And if I just use Her Honor's question, if I connect this to the discussion we had with the chairman of the Committee on Education, Senator Gatchalian, currently the subsidy given to private school students is 60,000. It was reduced to 20,000 for 2025, but very recently the board said 27,000. So that's still less than half of the 60,000 they have been receiving the past few years. So definitely an increase in tests will help, because the 27,000 can be augmented to at least bring it back to 60,000. I don't know how many, kasi yung 15 billion, 14.78 billion, at 20,000 per beneficiary, that is 750,000 beneficiaries, 750,000. Currently, the test beneficiaries are roughly 500, 400 plus, 600 na. So, itong 600 will now be
25%
receiving
more.
a reduced amount of 27, as I mentioned, right? So, if this additional 14B would be given to 750,000 beneficiaries, so the first 600 can get that 20 and will almost be brought back to the 60,000 that they're receiving. So for me, okay yon, yung sa test. Yung sa tulong dunong, ano ba to? We assume or it is a number, 7,500. Okay. So sa tulong dunong, the grant is 7,500 per SEM or 15,000 a year. And that is 1 million beneficiaries. The problem is, as I mentioned earlier, the following year, they have to be absorbed by tests. And we all are only at 600. How would we absorb 1 million? How? So next year, I was asking them, where will we find the funding for that? And currently, the completion rate for the beneficiaries is close to 80% with the amount that we have been giving them, which is 60,000 for private schools and 40,000 for public. If UNIFAS will continue with their plan of reducing this, then as we had discussed with Senator Gatchalian, most likely there will be consequences, possibly less will be able to finish, because it would appear now that if you look at 27 and the computation before when they set it at 60, 20,000 was for tuition and the 40 was for all the other needs to go to school. 7,000 na lang yon.
That's right.
Na pagkasyahin lahat-lahat ng pangangailangan, from food to transportation to school materials, projects, so on and so forth for the year. So that's gonna be tough, Mr. President.
Well, salamat good sponsor na kahit hindi mind reader ang good sponsor, at least nakapaggawa nga ilang projections.
Scenarios.
Yes, or scenarios, given the requirements to the students at yung changing amounts na iga-grant and yung mandates nung original programs. So dito po sa pareho sa TES at saka sa tulong-dunong, predetermined po ba yung beneficiaries? And paano isosustain sila yung funding sa mga items na ito mula sa CHED? So, simpleng tatanggapin ba ng CHED yung pondong ito, yung dagdag na pondong ito, good sponsor?
To a large extent, the test beneficiaries are predetermined because they will continue giving the same beneficiary for the freshman year all the way till the
Fourth,
senior year.
yes.
As I mentioned, doon naman sa tulong-dunong, yung beneficiaries niyan must then be absorbed by tests. So in that sense, predetermined. But ang tulong-dunong kasi can be availed of, I think there's not really any specific standard. The income lang of 400,000. So for so long as the beneficiary would fit that bracket, then anyone, any student can apply for that,
All right.
Mr. President.
So, yung tanong na how to sustain, kailangan may capacity yung isang programa by sophomore year of the students originally supported by the first program ay masalo sila. So, will CHED simply accept the fund as they are appropriated right now?
Well, assuming that after the BICAM, this is still
Yes.
there, I guess wala naman silang choice na hindi accept yung fund. Yes, they will accept it, Mr. President. You know, I'm guessing, I don't know if it's Her Honor, if it was part of her follow-up questions or the presiding officer now. Remember the number that CHED gave us earlier was 1.6 million applicants. So based on my discussion now with Her Honor, where I said that sa TES, lalabas siya ng 750,000 beneficiaries at 20,000 per person. But it's actually now 27, so mababawasan ng konti yung 750. Baka naman yun yung formula ng House. Kasi nga 1.6 eh. So they have now 1M. But again, I'm just guessing.
Yes, the good sponsor is maybe a little more successfully mind reading. Opo. And pwede po bang magkaroon ng idea, good sponsor, paano yung subsidies, parehong yung TES at saka yung tulong-dunong, ay ni-utilize by the receiving HEIs para i-improve yung pinag-uusapan din ng good sponsor at ni Senator Sherwin kanina, para i-improve yung kanilang carrying capacity o service capacity. Halimbawa, may income-derived ba yung mga HEIs, good sponsor?
Yun lang po sa part ng TES, 20,000 for 20,000 goes to the schools, goes to the SUCs. So they will then use that. For private schools only, no? Because yung sa public schools, wala na silang idadagdag dahil covered na yun dun sa higher education fund. So for the private schools, they will get the 20,000.
And hopefully yun yung paraan na once yung mga tulong-dunong freshmen lilipat sa TES bilang sophomores, na improve yung carrying o service capacity ng HEIs sa pamamagitan din ng TES. Is that how it could work, good sponsor?
Sorry, I
It's
missed
all right,
that
good
last
sponsor.
statement. It's just
Opo.
a...
So, continuing to think aloud with the good sponsor, so ito ba isang paraan, whether by design or by the way the programs operate, evolve, and interact with each other, na by the time yung mga tulong-dunong freshmen maging sophomores at lilipat sa TES sa susunod na school year, nakapag-improve ng service or carrying capacity yung HEIs na nag-i-implement ng TES para masalo itong mga original tulong-dunong students, good sponsor.
Sa public school, wala hong papasok na funding sa SUCs kasi nga that amount will just go to the student for their own needs.
Right.
So, hindi nakakatulong sa carrying
Sa public
capacity.
schools. Okay.
Sa private, ano ba yun? Ba't kunyari bigyan mo 7.5? Anong part to ng ibibigay nila? Or buo yun? Kailangan bigyan? Ano, bahala na siya. So kung kulang siya ng 2. Okay. So sa private school, the way it works, that 7,500 per sem that is received, they can choose to augment the tuition fee that's due, or if the tuition fee is within the 7,500, they can use that entire amount. So yun nakakatulong sa private, pero sa public wala.
Wala. Okay. So yung private lang ang pwedeng in a way, counterpart dun sa subsidies mula sa CHED. Salamat. And no other income as such na de-derive ang HEIs? Good sponsor.
None.
Alright. Salamat, good sponsor. So, dako po ako sa absorptive capacity at saka deficiencies. So, while these scholarship programs hold immense potential, it's essential to ensure that the CHED has the capacity to implement them, along with its other programs, implement them effectively, and utilize the allocated funds efficiently. To this end, I'd like to draw attention to some concerning data on CHED's fund utilization rate. During the Senate Committee budget hearing, CHED reported low obligation and disbursement rates for fiscal year 2024, with only 27% of the funds obligated and 22% disbursed. Chair De Vera noted that the Commission is struggling to obligate and disburse funds due to the 6 billion peso augmentation allocated for this year. I firmly believe in the importance of making education more accessible through scholarships. However, paano po pinaplano ng CHED i-manage ang dagdag na 30.1 billion pesos sa pondo habang ngayon pa lang humaharap na siya sa hamon sa kasalukuyang 6 billion peso na augmentation? We don't want a situation in which students have to wait years to receive their scholarships again, good sponsor.
Oh, actually, Mr. President, the chairman did say that the 6 billion, the 6 billion of tulong-dulong funds was difficult, no, to disburse. It was difficult because it was a big change. It's a big amount. That's why we always go back to, in as much as all of us here would like to support education or any other important programs, we also look at the the absorptive capacity
Yes.
of the agency. But I can't resist to go back to, kasi what they received was additional tests and additional tulong-dunong. Yung sa test kasi talaga, I stand by, dapat in-augment nyo na lang yung existing para nga, kesa sa binabaan nyo, tapos dinagdagan nyo, tapos nahihirapan din kayo mag-implement. Di dapat, anyway, that's my position.
So, difficult nga daw yung paggastos ng 6 billion pesos. Ngayon, nakaharap sa dagdag na 5 times that amount. So, may plano ba ang CHED paano i-manage yung 5 times ng halagang sinabi nila nahihirapan silang i-manage, good sponsor?
So, Mr. President, as I've already mentioned, this representation is supportive of returning to the previous amount, the test subsidy of 60,000 and 40,000.
Yes.
So I was just asking CHED and UNIFAS executive director, since they were nodding their head vigorously when Her Honor asked the question, kung kaya ba nodding their head to my question, kung mahihirapan sila to disburse, and definitely yes, mahihirapan. So sabi ko, if you just use that amount to go back to not even increase, just to go back to the former amount being given to the test beneficiaries, then again, they're nodding their head vigorously that, yes, that would be much easier to implement. So that's one option. But again, this was a insertion of the House. So I don't know if we can touch that.
Oo nga pala,
We
good
can try,
sponsor.
we can
Good,
discuss with them.
Right. Which is what the BICAM is for. So, but good point, good sponsor. Salamat sa paalalang iyon. But in any case, nanggaling man sa House, as the good sponsor indirectly said, pagdating sa BICAM, pwedeng maging subject ng parehong houses at parehong panels. So, oo nga, kung bumalik tayo sa 60,000 per student at tama po ba, good sponsor, 750,000 beneficiaries? Tama po ba yung nakuha kong...
Yeah, so basically, I just made a rough computation that at
Yes.
14.7, which is roughly 15B, at 20,000 per beneficiaries, that would roughly cover around 750,000 beneficiaries. But I said it's less because
Okay.
I only learned today that the UNIFAS board brought up again the subsidy to private school students to 27.
Yes.
So mag-iiba yung numbers na ng konti.
Okay po. But at least salamat, good sponsor, na opening up that conversation about paano mas optimally magagamit ng CHED yung halagang ito to achieve their mandates. Yun yung magiging huling paksa ko after I finish with this topic. So, additionally, for fiscal year 2023, approximately 18.3 billion pesos worth of higher education subsidies were found to have deficiencies, as highlighted in the 2023 COA report. The same issues persist, including delays in the release of tertiary education subsidies to students, overpayments and duplicate payments, unliquidated fund transfers, and insufficient documentation to support disbursements. Ano pong institutional reforms ang ini-implement ng CHED, good sponsor? Meron po bang mga plano para i-streamline yung processes, palakasin yung monitoring mechanisms, at i-enhance yung overall capacity ng ahensya, i-manage yung mga programang ito ng mabisa, good sponsor?
So actually, Mr. President, those observations of COA were, the CHED replied to them, and after that, they already were given an unqualified opinion. So basically, they have responded satisfactory to those concerns.
And anong mga reforms ang in-implement nila or are implementing to have received that unqualified opinion? And any plans to sustain receiving unqualified opinions?
Okay. Okay. Things like the automation of the free higher ed and then the land bank card disbursement, those kind of interventions or changes.
So yung mga recommendations po ng task force report nag-align sa reforms na ini-implement nila, good sponsor?
That is correct, Mr. President.
Salamat. So, huli sa paksang ito, pwede bang mag-request sa commission na magsumite ng comprehensive plan na dedetalye kung paano nila ini-intend na efficiently i-obligate at i-disburse yung kanilang pondo para siguruhin na yung mga scholars matatanggap yung subsidies nila sa tamang panahon, good sponsor?
That is all in the COA response, so we'll give Her Honor a copy of that COA response.
Thank you, good sponsor. Alright, sa huling paksa ko na lang po, good sponsor, sa interpellation na to, tungkol sa free higher education and SUC's deficits. So continuing in that line of thinking opened up with the good sponsor a few minutes ago. I ask these questions because I also want to make sense with as little mind reading as possible. I want to make sense also of the House's decision to propose such a substantial increase, 30 billion pesos, effectively doubling the NEP proposed budget. That increase for scholarships, while other critical needs in higher education remain unmet. It's no secret that our state universities and colleges, as key implementers of the UACTE Act, are riddled with challenges, particularly budget deficiencies. These deficiencies have accumulated over the past years, impacting their ability to provide quality education and support services to students. Adding to this concern, I understand that a portion of the budget for UACTE, free higher education, specifically 7.06 billion pesos under purpose number 10, was transferred to unprogrammed appropriations. Eto na naman po tayo, good sponsor. This amount, as I understand it, was intended to pay the arrears for free higher education in SUCs under the UACTE, accumulated in 2022 and 2023. This transfer to unprogrammed appropriations effectively deprioritizes this crucial budget line item, which should be dedicated to reimbursing SUCs and covering their deficiencies. It raises concerns about government's commitment to fully funding the UACTE Act and ensuring the financial stability of our SUCs. Pwede po bang i-confirm ng good sponsor itong transfer at magbigay linaw sa current status ng mga arrears na ito? Ganong kalaki o ganong karami sa 7.06 billion pesos ang na-release at naibayad sa SUC's good sponsor?
Sorry, was Her Honor's last question how much of the 6.7 was released?
Yes, and paid to the SUCs.
Okay, in any,
It's okay.
okay. So, this representation shares the observation and the concern of Her Honor. She is correct that 6.7 billion was placed under unprogrammed appropriation.
6.7 billion good sponsor or 7.06 billion?
Ang nasa akin is 6.7.
6.7
Let me
lamang.
check.
Okay po.
Anyway, let me confirm that amount. But so as I was saying that so there's this amount which we're still questioning if it's 6.7 or 7 was 7 point, is it 7.6?
7.06.
7.06. Okay, let's check what that amount is. It's under unprogrammed appropriations. As of now, none of it has been released, but this same amount already appears in the GAA for 2025. I do just have 20. No, why is this 2023?
It's already in the unprogrammed appropriations for this year, 2025.
Yeah, I know, but you said it's in 2025. It's in the GAA now.
It's in the budget
Of 2025.
2024 this year.
So this was 2023?
These are the revenues for 2022 and 2023. This is unprogrammed appropriations for 2025.
1 minute suspension.
Session suspended.